Hello.
Yo,
How you doing, man?
good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I had to
Um,
go. My laptop's messed up, so I had to go iPhone this morning.
oh, cool. Um, yeah. So it's funny because while we were going back and forth about topics, I uh, I figured, like, for me, I was looking up underachievement, and then I thought mastering underachievement. How
No,
about
this dude, this is it. This is synergy because I thought that we should, instead of live with two guys, we should call this something about underachievers, like the Underachievers Club or something. Seriously,
absolutely?
last week I had that thought. I'm like, oh, I gotta tell Aaron.
You should. We can tell all our friends. Now there's a book apparently called How to Be a Complete and Utter Failure in Life, Work and Everything. And it talks about 44 and a half steps to underachievement. And it actually gets good reviews. I might have to look at it.
We're gonna have to check that out because yeah, that. But seriously, I thought, but it's obviously um, it's uh, it's figuring out how to achieve even if you're an underachiever, I guess.
Or maybe you think higher of yourself than you are, and you should just stop thinking so. But I also thought, well, if you know the rules to underachievement, then like George on Seinfeld, you have that day where you do everything opposite of what
Opposite
you
what you
naturally
normally
would do.
do.
Um, eh, you know,
Yes.
so even recently, I decided to do this course this week on wealth building, and it's a lot of it's fundamentals. And what the first lesson out of the group, it's talking about how much you need to retire. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
47 and or soon, and I'm looking at a 67. So in 20 years retiring, I don't know that I'll ever retire. And I need about $1.6 million to sustain a lifestyle that I'm used to. Uh, and I'm like, okay, it's either that or have a $70,000 a year residual income from
Right.
some type of asset that produces that income. So, so I'm looking at it going, wow, here we are faced. Karen's in her early 50s. I'm in my mid 40s, and
Right.
we're looking now at homes. We've got some savings, but in the end, it's enough for a down payment and a little extra savings, and still having a 30-year note of about $400,000.
Right.
So that's because of where we are. So I'm thinking, okay, that doesn't sound good.
No. No.
So really, it's all hands on deck trying to figure out what we're going to do, and
Yeah.
at the same time, it's the other side of it, which is there's this fire, and I forgot what the acronym means, but basically, people who decide to get out of as quickly as possible the rat race by
Mm-hmm.
saving up $1 million and then living super simply, radically, and not spending a whole lot of money, but basically not having to work for the man.
Right.
And so to do that, though, you can't really have a expensive lifestyle.
Yep.
And that's key. Like here, it's inescapable to stay in our school district for our kids and get anything. I mean, there's a home on the market right now that's 1,400 square feet for $248,000.
Right.
And it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, and we could cram ourselves in there, and we could be like most of the rest of the world, actually still living above that. But um,
Right.
if we were to have parents come in or want to have guests come over, there's nothing we could do there as far as staying over. So
Right.
the next step is to find a 4-bed. And of course, when you go to a 4-bed, you think, oh, 2 baths. Well, it'd be really nice to have a guest bath, and then a bath for our kids, and then a bath for ourselves. So it'd be nice to have 4 beds, 3 baths. And then it's like, okay, now you're getting the high 3s, low 4s.
Right.
And it's like, well, it's all expectation, but really you're looking at 300 plus. And thinking about that is, a lot of people feel like they're doing really well, but then if you look at the note that they have, the college debt that they have, the leases that they have on vehicles,
Right.
I don't know how much better off anyone else is than me. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that right there is part of the challenge, is that there's the perception that we have about how well off other people are, and then there's the reality. I know a guy I used to work with lives in a neighborhood. In Houston, they build these subdivisions. They have names, and so then people begin to refer to the area as that area, right? Even though that's not like the area from the government's perspective. But he lived in what's considered a very nice suburb,
Mhm.
and well off, and his neighbor next door always got a new car, always this, always that. Well, one day he's out there and the trash blows over from his neighbor, and it's like, I mean, it's not funny, but it's like piece of paper. It's unpaid bills, unpaid bills, unpaid bills, unpaid bills, unpaid bills. I
Wow.
mean, like piles and piles of unpaid bills. And for him, it was like kind of this wake up of, yeah, this guy's presenting this lifestyle, and that's not everybody. I mean, don't
Right.
get me wrong, but I think it's easy, and I think that's human nature, and I think it's, especially in today's day and age with the social medias, right? It's but it's easy to perceive like somebody's, oh, so much better off than I am, and maybe they're not. Maybe they are. Maybe they're not. But I think it comes down to what you said, is that kind of all hands on deck, going, okay, well, what choices do we make here?
Yeah.
We last time I refied, which I should probably stop doing that. In fact, they offered me again, and I didn't end up doing it. But I went from a 30 to a 15, because it really is. I mean, it's a marginal increased cost, but in terms of interest savings and note, right? How long that note is, it's definitely. I wish I'd done it in the first place. I wish I'd done 15 years. I'd be almost paid off by now
Yeah.
with the house.
Hey, by the way, Mike, are you taller today? Your head
I
popped
am.
out of the
I
screen
am.
quite
I've
a bit.
increased my height. Doing some stretching exercises. No, I don't have a. I don't have. I mean, I could do this, but I don't have a stand for this stupid thing.
That's okay.
I expected to be on my laptop, but that did not happen.
It's okay.
Anyway, I wish I was tall. I wish I was taller. I wish I was anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
No, I have boxes underneath my computer today, so.
Okay.
Yeah, no, so underachieving, what is the first step? We've got to have a foundational practice here of underachievement. Either we're working against or towards, but
the first tenet of underachievement is to set really, really low expectations, or to set high expectations but not have built up any discipline in order to achieve them.
Yes, and then beat yourself up daily because you're not reaching them.
There's got to be some good. There's got to be some good. It's not even self-criticism. It's like just self-loathing. There's got to be some like low. It's got to be expert level negativity about yourself. That's definitely
Absolutely.
Got to throw that in there. Yeah, no, I got okay. I fixed that there so we can see my head. All right, all this technology. It's so complicated. Oh my gosh. Okay, there we go. That's right.
Does your chair go down anymore? I mean, you could like. There you go.
Better.
Yay!
I look like hey kids,
Well, now you can sit up straight. There you go.
Right. Oh no, that's good posture. Come on. We're talking underachievement here.
Yes.
So no, yeah, underachievement. Yeah. I don't know. Did you ever whatever? Did you ever see Amadeus, the
yes.
movie made from a play? The play and movie were not exactly the same thing, but at the end, Salieri is coming out through the mental institution. He's in his wheelchair and he's like, worship me. I'm your king of mediocrity, right? I am, like I'm the mediocre king. That spoke to me in many ways, but no, I don't know. I think, one, I think you have to look at what are you trying to do? And I don't know. What do you think about underachieving? Do you feel like an underachiever?
Yeah, I've always felt like an underachiever, and I really don't know why. So I think the first thing I judge myself by is So my dad never got his high school diploma yet. He's always, because he was a general contractor, been able to provide and do relatively well in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Alaska, and California when he needed to. Now, mind you, when he moved to California, he wasn't paying rent because he was living with his mother-in-law in a second marriage, so he didn't have
Right.
the pressure of having to worry about that. But generally speaking, when I look at my uncle or my dad, I make these comparisons that are not necessarily coming from a great place. They both had an entrepreneurial dad that was successful. They had been influenced by that, which I think expectations, those standards, and the way that you look at life is influenced by your parents. Uh,
Right.
my mother came from military parents that saved everything, never did anything, never took risks, even moderate. And she had barely a high school education, and she fought to survive, and that was all she ever did was survive. And she never, when she did start to make decent money, she didn't really take care of it of her own admission. And she had a short sale when she was in her early 50s that kind of wiped her out and took away her
Mm.
credit. So really, I think my expectation of myself has always been, okay, I played at a high level in soccer.
Right.
I've had people say I was a good public speaker. I've had people say I was great at sales when I did it. But when I was in sales and did it, it was easy to burn out.
Right.
So it's like, oh, there's something wrong with me because I'm good at it, but I burn out at it.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, I think there's always been something inside of me going, what is my thing? And when am I going to find my thing so that
Mhm.
I can do it and provide and be this, superstar community member that coaches and
Mhm.
influences and, you know, but as you said, I think, and what I'm seeing even with the wealth building stuff is if the method is consistency, the method is it's boring. It's doing the same things to structure your life or to build yourself up and to have routines that do that. And I think that's the biggest self-loathing thing that I have is, and I also feel like I know what I need to do to at least feel like less of an underachiever. Like if I at least could check all the boxes and say, well, I've done what I can,
Right.
and the universe hasn't done what it's going to do yet.
Right.
But I just always look back to, well, I've got enough flaws that there must be reasons. But then I look at other people who look like they have just as many flaws,
Right.
and somehow they've made it. So, but yeah, I definitely have the underachieving thing in the back of my head. How about
Mhm.
you?
Oh yeah. No, I mean that's I think in terms a lot of time of unrealized potential. Like, and I had the same kudos growing up of, oh, you can speak well, oh, you do this. And then some challenges along the way of the things that I needed to address. And then I think my dad said it like this, I've been a millionaire multiple times over, but then it gets spent, right? It's like that type of thing where you've actually done well, but what do you have to show for it, right? And I think that is something that plays back there. Although I saw an interesting quote, meme, what have you, the other day where somebody posted, it's like, you're under no obligation to uh, to continue to be the person you were yesterday or to be the person that other people think you are. You have no obligation to that. And while that sounds like, oh yeah, of course that's true, but I don't know, it's weird because we get these kind of like we kind of get bound up in people's opinions of us or our opinion of ourselves, right? How long we've held that opinion of ourselves. And so I don't know. I think that in my best moments, I'm like, yeah, I want to do something differently. And it's what we talked about, I think, last time was discipline. And now you've used the word consistency. And for, I think for both of us, there's this element of that sounds really, really boring.
Yeah.
Just like, oh my God. Like, and like we talked about, I know guys that are the same dude in just day in and day out, and they do the same things. And, so I guess my thing is, how do you become consistent to build that life when that consistency just like gnaws at you? Like, that's the last thing I want to do. And why is that? Why is it the last thing I want to do? Why do I
Well,
care?
yeah. No, I mean, like when I look at Strength Finder, or I look at, like you look at personality tests, and they say, or strength tests, for instance, and they say, well,
Right.
you generally want to focus on your 3 to 5 best strengths. Trying to make your weaknesses better is, you're going to make it in small steps, but really maximize your strengths, minimize your weaknesses, and
Mm-hmm.
delegate those weaknesses. But it's like discipline, I can't delegate.
Right.
I can't delegate it.
They
And
need you to be disciplined for me. Dang.
yeah, and so I guess it's just you either are gonna do it yourself or get it pounded into you,
Right.
or it's not gonna get into you. Yeah, I definitely, my best times. I don't know that I've ever felt like uh, I wasn't grinding in having a routine. Like it was
Right.
always had to be. It was always conscious. Like some of these guys that we've talked about. It seems like at this point, it's fluid, it's unconscious, it's subconscious. It's just it's part of who they are. Some of
Right.
them are more naturally inclined to it. Um, so if you're young, start doing it when you're young, because it'll be easier when you're older, I guess.
Right.
Um, but yeah, no, I don't know. I think ultimately I look at my son, and I think about, I wish that I could, sometimes I wish I could transfer my pain and my hurt to him,
Right.
so he could feel how important it is to start to explore, and how
Mm-hmm.
important it is to 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 give energy towards seeing what he's made to do, or what he can create and what he enjoys.
Right.
Because it really is, it's something. Actually, he's got to go into a meeting with his, this is the last day of school for him. So
Okay.
he's got to go into to his time, and maybe we can cut it off short,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
maybe we should
Yeah.
normally
Well,
just have quick bites, but go
why
ahead.
don't we do this? You would. I was wondering if maybe on this topic, and we keep it short here, is what we shoot again for tomorrow and Friday, and let's try to, in that time, let's bring back a resource or two to further us, because I agree, if you're young, start it now. And I wish, so I have a different thing, because I think Zach has, my son has a lot of negativity, and I would love for him to see the inspiration of, hey, if you work hard, there is a result at the end. There is something that you can say, hey, I achieved that, I did that. And he fears the work, because I think part of just his stuff that he has, he doesn't know how long that work will take, right? And so he gets overwhelmed by it. And but he also hasn't practiced it enough to know, right? So
Mhm.
it's kind of this cyclical thing. But I think for us is like, I'd like to see us. We've talked this way for a long time. What I'd like to do is see, can we, let's do an experiment. Can we get to a point where we have some sense of satisfaction, some
Yeah,
sense of having achieved, as underachievers, we've now achieved something, right? And so why don't we do this? Why don't we get together tomorrow again, and let's look for, over the course of the day, and not overwhelming, not, a list of 50 things is great, but I can't implement
yeah,
that, right? But one thing we can pull back into tomorrow and talk about, okay, here's one step we can take, here's one thing we can do to move ourselves in that direction.
sure. Yeah, sounds good.
Uh,
I mean, yeah, and
let's do it.
the thing that I think when you were talking is, the first thing an addict has to do is to admit and accept that he has a
Yes.
problem. And
My name is Mike. Underachiever.
Yeah. We do need, maybe that's what we come up with, the Underachievers Association or whatever.
Right, right.
Anonymous, Underachieving
Underachievers not
Anonymous.
so anonymous.
There you go.
Not quite
Okay.
anonymous.
That sounds good.
All
So
right.
then we'll set up for tomorrow.
Okay, man. Sounds good.
Take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye.